towers at whatever. All right. So, Callye, go ahead and give us our official seven-figure sales kickoff.
All right, let's do this. Welcome everybody. Welcome to Seven Figure Sales. We do this show every single day at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we talk about sales. So if you have a hot tip to share or you have a burning question to ask, come up on stage if you're on Clubhouse, and if you're watching the live stream, comment down below, and let's help each other grow and get to the next level, right? So today we're going to talk about, this is a fun topic, right? Because maybe you have started a company and you know your product and you know your customers and you can sell well, but as you grow, it can't just be all about you. You have to run the business too, right? So you have a sales team, and that's a different skill set. So I'm really going to lean heavy on Corey on this one because this is right in his wheelhouse, but this is so important, because if you're really great in sales, maybe they promote you and you become a manager, and then you realize like, hey, this is a totally different set of skills as well. So how do you build, how do you grow, and how do you run a sales team, right? How do you get other people to operate maybe 80% as well as you've learned how to do it? So what do you think, brother?
Yeah, dude, let's kick it off. I love this conversation for a couple of reasons. In fact, I had a conversation with a gentleman earlier today that I met on here, as a matter of fact, that is dealing with this same exact issue. Is, he's got a sales team in the U.S. Well, he's in Canada. Like, so these are things that I don't even think about because, well, I'm not going to Canada anytime soon. And so if I were going to Canada, I guess I would have the wherewithal to have thought about this. But, I just I didn't really think about what it was like running a business from Canada and having to come to the U.S. for actually two of his companies are in the U.S. And so he's like, well, I've got this sales team, but like, I can't get to them. And I'm like, I know somebody that can. Right. So, but I could, so I'm going to start this out with this. The way you don't, in my opinion, and Charles may have a different take on this, but here's where I see a lot of folks screw up, is they take their top sales guy, the guy that has been crushing it month after month after month. And they're like, all right, dude, you're killing it. You deserve it. You earn it. You've earned it. We're going to promote you. You're now going to manage the sales team. And the top sales guy's like, well, shit, hell yeah. Well, what does that mean? Right? Well, what do you mean I got to manage the sales team? I like to sell, but do I have the skill set to manage people? No, probably not. If I'm the top sales guy, guaranteed I'm probably not probably not super organized, right? I mean, most sales guys, I think it's a blanket statement. Most sales guys would fall into the category of not being super organized. And you have to have organization if you're going to manage people. And you got to be a good communicator, which, if you're the top sales guy, probably you are a good communicator. But that does not mean that you can manage people. People are hard to manage. Some people are hard to manage. Like, I'll give you a quick example. When I had my med spa, I had nothing but women that worked underneath me, right? That sounded really weird, but you got the point. And they would go into the treatment room and just do whatever they wanted to do, because I certainly couldn't walk in there, because somebody could be half naked. They could be using, the vaginal rejuvenation machine. You can only fathom what that is. So, it was just, it would be a lawsuit if I were to walk in, period. And so naturally, based on the vaginal rejuvenation comment, all my staff were women. I couldn't have a guy doing that procedure because it's very intimate for a woman. So the answer, in my opinion, is if you want to build a great sales team, you want to be a great leader. And you got to be able to communicate with each and every one of those people on that sales team. And if that means you got to have more one-on-ones, then that's what you got to do. And if that means that you've got to fire somebody, that's also what you've got to do. If you're the one that's over the team, it's your responsibility to make sure they're successful, whatever that looks like. And so, if you're thinking about hiring a sales team, my suggestion would don't put your top sales guy on there, because he's not a manager, and he's probably, he may be a good leader, but maybe not of people, right? And so I just think this is a common mistake so many companies make. So with that, Callye, I will pass it to you, bro.
Yeah. So I couldn't agree more. You see this, there's this is Peter Principle, right? There's an old book, Peter Principle, and it's kind of like that. People, they get promoted to their level of there's actually a Scott Adams book that's called the Dilbert Principle. That's the same idea, but funnier. But people get promoted to their level of incompetence, right? And it's why so many people in management are incompetent, is because the business promotes people that are good at executing a job, and then they assume that they can magically somehow manage that process and manage people. So you're spot on. This is like the classic management dilemma right now. And my brother and I had this exact conversation earlier today, is that the thing that makes somebody really great, and so believe it or not, manufacturing companies are exactly like this in this respect, is they pick the person that knows the most about that process, and they say, okay, well, that person has the most seniority or skill or whatever, so now they're in charge. And then they're like, why does my culture suck? Why can't I get anything done? It's like, well, because you promoted somebody into a position that they have zero skill for, and they probably won't even like it, right? Because they liked being the best. Everyone kind of likes being good, right? And then you've put them in a situation without any support, which means you suck as a leader, right? That you put them in a situation where they have no training, no skills. All they know is what they've seen other people do with them or to them, and it doesn't provide, like, they're probably only remembering all the negative things, so it's not providing a very adequate map of what success looks like. And on the sales thing, is you probably took away some of their commission, or you made their commission reliant on these people that they're managing. So you took agency away from them, the freedom that salespeople like, right? The ability to earn on a dime. You've taken that away. And now you've said, well, you can earn more money, but now you have to do it by using the skill that you don't have. So I think that's a funny thing to kick off. And it was rattling around in my brain. And I was like, we got to talk about this on 7-Figure Sales. So I'd like to pass it off. Who do we have next?
Charles, I believe you did dip out, but you came back in. You've been up here for a minute. So Charles, well, you go ahead and jump in, because, dude, I know you've got some insight on this.
I think he just popped out. Let's hear from Julie.
Listen, this is all I'm going to say. This room never ceases to surprise me, because never in a million years did I expect to pop into 7-Figure Sales, how to run a sales team, and be talking about vaginal rejuvenation. So literal, like, water out my nose when we started that conversation, because I was not expecting it. On a serious note, 100% in alignment with you two. Peter Principle is alive and real in so many companies, and it's a big downfall for them. This is where I actually think that smaller companies have an edge, right? In that they aren't promoting as quickly, so people have an opportunity to get much more proficient at the roles that they have, and they'll take advantage of opportunities like working with people like Corey to become better at sales, because it just makes more sense for them to really train up and build the team they have, versus just promoting or hiring and not really thinking about the consequences of what that looks like. So this is where in my opinion, small companies win, because every big company I've ever been in, that's not how they handled it. It was the, promote from within, and they weren't really looking at how do we appropriately train our sales staff. Whereas I think smaller companies look more at what do we got to do to get these people trained appropriately. So that's just my initial thoughts on the topic. I love the discussion though. Great conversation tonight.
So, Julie, you said something a second ago, and now I looked away. I got distracted. You just mentioned, I know what it was. People try to hire within, and I think that's a noble thing to do. However, it's not always the right thing to do. And I don't mean like you should just. What I'm saying is this: if you have a great person in your company that can fill those shoes correctly, then I believe that it totally makes sense. And I think I encourage people to do that. However, don't sacrifice your damn company just so you're loyal to one individual who will probably shit on you if they have to. So
I agree. I think most businesses don't look at it that way. It's an education process for people, because that's where the Peter principle comes into play, right? It's like, oh man, Callye's been with us for 10 years and he's so loyal. He's never late, and every time we ask him to work late, he stays, and he's given up vacation time with his wife, and he even missed his dog Butter's third birthday party just to work for us. So honestly, let's just give that job to Callye. That's how a lot of people look at it. And that is, listen, kudos for that, going that extra mile for your company, but that is the wrong way to promote and to build a really strong business.
Well, and another thing, I promise, Rob, I'm coming right to you, brother. See, the other thing too is getting somebody or putting somebody in a position and expecting them to carry out that position, and they just don't have the capabilities. And that's not, we mentioned that a moment ago, but the other side of that is once you bring, so if it's Callye, right? And I said, all those things that you just said, Julie, about Callye, if I say all these things about Callye and then I move him into a different role and I realize, damn it, I screwed up. I put the wrong guy in the role, but, he's been with us for a minute. He's been with us for, 17 years, and the company's only 17 and a half years. So, he's practically been here since day one. So, yeah, I think he's going to turn it around. It's bullshit. He's not going to turn it around after that period of time. It's just not going to happen. So, you're wasting resources trying to get people to change. Rob, what's up, dude?
Hey, great. Yeah, no, my pleasure. My pleasure. Great conversation. I think there's two things that I'm taking away from this. One is when you make your best salesperson your sales manager and promote them. I think what ownership, and correct me if you guys think this is not the right direction, but most of the time upper management or ownership thinks, okay, this salesperson is so great, they're going to take and they're going to teach the sales staff how to sell. They're going to sell just like our top salesperson, so we're going to make him a manager or her a manager. And the challenge is that person who is the top salesperson, 99.9% of the time, they're doing it because they're intuitively great at sales. It's not something that they can teach. It's not something they can scale. It's not something they can use on demand. They're just intuitive about it. I've got a friend of mine who many years ago worked for Xerox Computer Services. He was their number one salesperson. This is the exact manager. He went from the top sales manager to the bottom on the sales, or the top salesperson to the worst sales manager in the entire Xerox corporation, because he was an intuitively great salesperson. So if you can get your top salesperson to decode why they're such a great salesperson, and you can teach that, then you've got a chance. But other than that, it's futile. And then as far as hiring from within, I'm a big believer in hiring from within if, and it's a big if, I think the quickest way to grow your company is grow your people. So if you've got the right people that can grow and that can change with the company and grow with them, and they are able to do that, and you're able to help them grow and show them how growing themselves and growing the company is going to benefit both parties. Now you got a shot. But if you don't do that, then you have the right to say, hey, we said this, we're going to grow from within. You just don't have the skill set. It doesn't mean you're not a valuable part of this company, but we got to go outside. If that conversation takes place, I'm good with hiring from outside. But if you simply say, as an owner, I've worked at companies where the ownership, once you work there a certain number of years, you were pigeonholed. That's all you're ever going to do. It didn't matter how much you tried to grow, what you tried to do. You took courses on your own, personal development on your own. They just could not get out of that mindset of, well, here's the box that we've got this person in. And I watched many people get passed over for promotions that they deserved that could have helped the company grow. Those people ended up leaving you. You end up losing good people because of the short-sightedness of upper management that says, well, they're in this box. That's all they can do. So if upper management says, hey, we can grow by growing our people, then you can grow it from within. If you have those conversations with people and they're not able to perform at those levels, then you have every right and responsibility to go outside of the company. So my name's Rob. I'm done speaking.
Rob, dude, you hit it spot on, dude. You hit it spot on. So, yeah, that's great information, Rob. And I agree, dude. If somebody fits the mold, then so be it, right? But if they don't fit the mold and you're trying to get them to fit the mold, man, that's a tough sell. Charles, what's happening?
What's going on, everybody?
What's up, brother?
So yeah, running a sales team, you definitely it can be a tricky one. In automotive, I've often seen people they make a great salesperson, or they make a great business development staff member or call center staff member. That doesn't always translate to them being the best manager. Sometimes their best position is where they're at. But if you find yourself in that position, being able to communicate is one thing. But being able to listen to your employees, just like in sales, I always say you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should listen twice as much as you talk. And the same holds true with a good leader. You have to have your ear to the ground. You have to be able to feel the pulse of your team, and in turn be able to translate that and communicate it across your entire team so that you can come up with a solution together. Teams always work better when they're being led side by side, not front to back. That's where you get definitely different cultures. I've been in several different automotive groups and stores and worked for other businesses. And, oftentimes the worst cultures came from where it was, a definite hierarchy. Oh, well, that's the boss. Yeah, he has an open door, but it's not really open. It's just physically open. And, you have to sit knee to knee with them. You have to get in the trenches with them. You have to listen to them, see what they're struggling with, and present, options based on what you're hearing from them. And I think that's a good leap towards being a good leader and running an effective sales team.
So, Charles, let me ask you a question. How often do you stand up from your desk, if that's where you're seated at the time, and walk around the desk and sit down with the customer?
Every single time. I never present numbers across the desk. Never have, never will. I think it's absolutely a horrible practice. I don't care if I have to kneel down beside them because there's no available chairs in my office. If I have to wheel around my chair, it doesn't matter. I'm always going to present numbers knee to knee. I want them, we're in this together. I'm working for them. and they're helping me with my business as a customer. So.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that, because I feel like you're getting that much closer to that know, like, and trust. You really should be there probably at that point, but you're solidifying that know, like, and trust factor by coming on the side of the desk where they are, right? That whole meet them where they are, right? This is a literal sense, meet them where they are.
Yeah, I mean, and there's something that comes about from that, of just, it breaks down walls. A lot of people don't think about it, but when you're on the other side of the desk, you're essentially, subconsciously putting up a wall. You're not working with them. They still see you as the guy on the other side that's just trying to sell them whatever. Doesn't matter what it is. Whether you're trying to sell a contract to, if you're a B2B, if you're trying to sell a contract, even when I did B2B, it was still, if I had to go around their desk and crouch, or get on the same side of their desk and show them the numbers shoulder to shoulder, I would. I never have done anything across the desk. And I think it just puts up this invisible wall that we don't often recognize.
Yeah, dude. 1,000%, Charles. So, Callye, it looks like we've got Matthew, Cheryl, and Ben down in the audience. If you guys want to come on up, hit your little hand button and come on up.
Fantastic. Some familiar faces.
Well, or you go ahead, Charles.
If I was just going to say, if anybody else has any questions for me, automotive related or otherwise, I would be more than happy to answer any questions.
Nice.
Sure.
Hey, glad to be back, guys. Missed you a whole bunch. So, and all of the great info. What a great topic tonight. I do have a question, though. For someone like me who's a solopreneur, it's a little bit different. Obviously, you're not running a sales team, but are there principles that you can apply that you would use in guiding a sales team as a solopreneur?
I would say, yeah, you want to treat your customers or your clients the same way you would the sales team, which is by their side, right? You want to walk through the journey with them.
Well, think of this as well, Cheryl, is that a really great lead source or potential sales source for you might be through partners, say like a web design company or a marketing company or a business consultancy, right? So they're not formally, like, they're not employees, and they're not formal partners really, but unless you can get them to see what value that you offer and what you uniquely do, it's going to be really hard to facilitate word of mouth sales. And I think this is where that really comes in, is that especially for people that are solopreneurs, majority of what you're going to get hopefully is from satisfied customers and people that you've worked on projects with. So learning how to run those engagements and get not just good social proof, but good referrals is another way, in my opinion, of like running a sales team. So an example of that is maybe somebody's super satisfied, but they can't really put into words the success that you've given them, right? So maybe there's a way of facilitating the and just making it easier for them to communicate, like, why, hey, like, I had a great experience with Cheryl. She did this for me, so I could achieve that with less hassle, something really easy. But that's the first thing that comes to mind to me, is that everybody they want their customers to be advocates and promoters, but I see very few people actually actively engage. And that doesn't mean just like ask. I see very few people actively engage their customers or partners in the market to make it easy to share and refer them. Yeah. Those are my thoughts.
So Cheryl, anytime I hear, and I think that's great advice. I mean, you can look at your partners as, kind of your team. In a sense, they are your team. We call them, in my world, a lot of times we talk about turning them, all our customers, into raving fans, which they become part of my team. But when you say solopreneur, the first thing that comes to my mind, first question is, what's your exit strategy? Because obviously you don't plan on doing this till you turn 100. So what's your exit strategy? And if your exit strategy is to eventually sell your company, build it to the point where it can be sold, how can you structure now to where you can add one team member, whether it be 6 months or a year from now, or 2 team members or 5 team members, because you're scaling more and more, taking on more and more clients, and your business is growing. At some point, there's only so much one person can do. So I would ask you what your exit strategy is, and how can you best prepare for that growth through that end game.
Solid question there. Actually, the exit strategy that we're working on it right now. I'm working on it with Julie. She's fantastic. We are looking at a couple of different options, whether it be scaling and adding people as I go down the road, or whether that great offer comes around and I just can't say no to it. But right now, we're working on that strategy together. Thankfully, I have a great company and team working with me on that. I think everything that I've heard so far has been very thought-provoking and great advice. So I really appreciate the answers, guys.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Cheryl. I know a lot of people are on our community after call meetup call, what is it? T.O. Bogan's call right now. You know about that?
For Arte.
Yeah, for Arte. I was like,
yeah,
it was such a good call today. I was like, but
it was a good call today.
It was a good call.
I missed it.
Julie?
No, I had a client call. We every Wednesday we have a client call with actually with Mike Boyer during that exact same time, and it's the time that worked for his schedule. So I just have to catch him on the replay now.
Well,
but that's okay.
I can't fault you for that because he's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, no, I know. I know. And
but
so
it was a great call.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching the replay tomorrow and catching up on everything. But I haven't been on a call in a few weeks because we've been working with him on Wednesdays.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'll have to check in with him. My call with him is tomorrow. So yeah. That's wonderful.
I don't think I know him.
Hoyer, I don't think that I could drag him on Clubhouse to save his life, but
no.
No, he's a really good guy. He's just he's an engineer that I know, and I've placed him into a couple of opportunities, and now he's doing his own thing, which when you hit the right product and you really understand where there's a need in the market, sometimes we see this where it exceeds what your capacities to do it are. And this is like why when people ask me like, how do you find a winning product or a winning service to sell, right? I'm like, define winning, because if it's really, really good, like the market will literally be coming to your door, knocking on your door and saying, Corey, are you home? Are you home? I need your help. I need your help. And you're like, oh shit, I can't scale as fast as how good my service is. So you have to put that into consideration. And it's kind of a blessing to have, but it's also one of the worst situations that can occur because it's really hard to come back from. But I don't know. Sales are a funny thing. You think that you could always use more sales and sales cures all. I've definitely seen it the other way around. Where
100%, where all of a sudden you're like, I need some operational support.
I forgot to put a sold out button on that product, and now I have to sell. I have to go have a minimum order quantity of 20,000 units, and I just sold 22,000, and I only have 20,000 in stock. So I think I just went out of business. Or I have to call 3,000 people and tell them, sorry, buddy, I'll refund you. And then the credit card company hates me. So seen that, lots of variations of things like that. So I've gone through like a gauntlet of working with outside sales teams in the past couple of years, and it's an interesting experience. That's why I really liked this room so much. Is one, I'm trying to make my personal transformation into a better salesperson, but two, I've started to work with more and more salespeople that they don't work for me. They have their own thing, but they go out and find opportunities, and we work on them together, right? So it's been a big challenge with some of our products, like all the things we talk about in here, uncovering pain, showing the value. It's really easy because they'll just come back and say, hey, the product's too expensive. It's too expensive. The customer said it's too expensive, or it takes too long to get it. And I'm like, compared to what? And they're like, I don't know. I'm not sure. They're like, well, there's no competitor for the thing that they're asking for. So like, what are they basing this opinion on? And they're basing it on their feeling. And I'm like, well, that's great. And if I were in that sales call, like I know exactly how to navigate through that because it's the most common objection that we get. And I know how to work through it and maybe get a different meeting with somebody that is less directly tied to, oh my God, that's expensive, and more tied to like what they're trying to achieve versus the price. Right. But it's interesting trying to like get that information and like get it into these people's pocket and like go through the marketing and like build like, what does that slick sheet look like? What does that spreadsheet look like? What do those talking points look like? What does a good customer look like? What are the things that I shouldn't say or shouldn't do? And just be like, these are just things that I would do. But I don't know. It's been kind of an experience. So my ears are open for tonight about how to really facilitate other people to sell. It's a big deal because they're constantly saying something like, well, they didn't like this. I'm like, I've literally never had that problem before. Right. And I've been selling this product for more than 10 years. So like, I don't have this problem. Why did you have that problem? Why did they ask that? What are they trying to achieve? What are you trying to achieve? What did you say after that? And trying to like pull it apart. And it's been, people are a hassle, man. I don't know.
Well, I know, one of the things I focus on when I was doing remote training for call centers, and when I've done training for, automotive and door-to-door sales was, you have to find the problem. They're looking for your product or your service because they have a problem. And, it's funny because, oftentimes you find someone that maybe doesn't have as much experience in that product or service that they're selling. And you hear of the objections, like you stated, well, it's price or it's time to delivery, whether it's a physical product or a service. And, I've said the same thing. Well, I don't really get that. But the problem is that I look at it from they have a problem. I have a solution. So here's the value. And when you're selling that value proposition over anything else, I will have new salespeople that will say, how in the world did you sell that for that much? Well, because I listened to my customer, I found their problem, I provided a solution confidently, and set the expectation. This is what it is. If you want, I'm presenting you a solution A, you want solution B, it's going to cost you more. I'm letting you know that heads up. You want solution B, say you're selling a service, and say you're selling an SEO service, and you have 3 different packages, and based on their problems and what they've told you, you recommend package A. And say, well, I want to go a step above that, and I want to get more than what package A provides. Can we look at package B? Well, absolutely we can. And I want to let you know, heads up, it does include a lot more, but that also comes at a premium. And so you let them know, and then and you ask them, do you still want to look at option B, knowing that it costs more? Yeah, I do, because there's more. Well, then when it comes to the price objection, if a price objection comes up, you say, well, listen, based on what you told me, my recommendation was A, and you felt like you wanted to go this further route. Well, there's a premium for that step forward. I told you that. You said it wasn't a problem. And that's one tactic, I've always taught, but selling that value, finding the problem, presenting the solution, and selling the value of that solution eliminates a lot of that. And I think if you stick to kind of that core sales training, whether it's, people that don't technically work for you or selling your product, if that's how, this is why I don't run into these objections, because I listen to my customer, what they're wanting, what the problem is, and I present them the solution, and I sell the value. I sell that solution to their problem and how it's going to make their life easier, no matter what it is.
And Charles, correct me. Well, I know I'm right about this, and I know you'll agree, but people will tell you why they're buying. They'll tell you, I need to buy this truck because I'm going to start a lawn care business this summer, or I need a minivan because I'm about to have 3 more kids, or, whatever, fill in the blank. People will 100% tell you exactly the roadmap you need to sell them your product or service.
Absolutely. I mean, and it goes back to what I said earlier. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You have to listen to your customer. No matter what the customer, whether it's a business or an individual or a family, you have to listen to that customer, because they will lay out the roadmap, and you don't have to necessarily. If you just show that you're engaged, most of the time they'll vomit up whatever you want them to tell you. If you actually make them feel like you actually care about what they have to say. The problem is a lot of salespeople put off this persona of, well, I don't really care what comes out of your mouth. I just want to sell you something. And this is what I want to sell you because there's a spiff on it, or I make more gross profit margin on this product. So that's what I'm going to try to steer you to no matter what. If the customer feels that your intent is genuine and that you actually want to hear their problem and solve their problem, they will vomit up all the information you could ever dream of to be able to land them in that perfect solution. And at the same regard, sometimes, you have to know when to cut bait and run. And I've done that with customers. I've had customers present a problem with me, and I listen to them, and, we talk about it. And at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? This just isn't the best solution for you, but I know a person that can help you. And did I lose a sale? Yeah. But I also gained sales from that one loss, because now they're a raving fan of me, because I didn't try to shove them a solution that wasn't truly a solution for them. And now they're a raving fan. And I can't tell you how many online reviews I've gotten from people that never even bought from me. And that goes to listening. You have to listen to your customer.
Yeah, Charles. So 2 things that I wanted to point out. The first one is I was training one of my teams. One of my sales team was actually a call center. Ironically, you mentioned that earlier, but so I was working with them today, and I was getting towards the end of the call, and I said to one of the girls, I said, "Hey, tell me where you feel like you're getting the most stuck in your." I mean, they use scripts in this particular situation, and I said, "Where do you feel like you're getting stuck?" She said, "Well," she said, I don't want this to sound bad, but sometimes I just have to listen to the customer and act like I care." And I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." I said, "Why did you say the first part of that? Why did you say this sounds bad?" And she said, "Well, I don't want to act like I don't care what they're saying." I'm like, we've all listened to somebody's bullshit story because they're the customer, and sometimes you just have to listen and just sit there. And lots of times they'll tell you, exactly whatever. They'll tell you why they're calling, which was my point earlier. But I just thought it was ironic that you mentioned the call center and training them remotely. Just exactly what I was doing today when I had this very conversation. So,
yeah, and sometimes you do have to listen to some painful, conversations to get to the bottom line. I had a customer yesterday that was exactly that way. Every question I asked, there was a 5-minute story attached to it. And, I had to keep reeling her back in. I'm like, okay, I understand, but we got to get all the cards on the table and I'll be able to help you. Like, trust me, I've got you. I'm here with you. I'm not going anywhere until this is done. And, I had to keep, she was scared. She'd been treated so poorly by other dealerships that she had to be baby stepped through it all. And that's okay. Sometimes you're going to have that customer, that client. And you do have to take a different tone, and that goes to listening to your customer. You have to listen to their tone and respond in a productive tone back, not just stay on. Call centers a perfect example. You go to a lot of call centers and you do training, or you have called into call centers, or you run a call center. The good and bad is that with calls, a lot of these call centers, they work off of scripts. The good part of that is that you have a solid foundation that you can build data off of. Okay, we know everybody's saying the same thing. But yeah, the words may be the same, but how they say them, the cadence of how they say them, their tone, are they smiling over the phone? All that plays to that script. Well, that person that's wanting to spill their guts and tell them all this horrible stuff, and you're trying to sell them the product because they called in, but they want to keep telling you this backstory, you can stay on script, but your cadence has to change, your tone has to change. You have to smile more over the phone. And it can be difficult. It can be frustrating. And, you're not going to win them all. But even if you don't win them, at the end of that phone call, if you can genuinely tell that the person is happy with the results of the call, that's all that matters. Because they may run into their neighbor that says, "Hey, I've got this problem." "Oh, well, I just got off the phone with this really nice person, and it wasn't for me, but I think you should call them. Here's the phone number." It does happen. It doesn't matter if you're a call center, service, or product. It doesn't matter if you're selling magazines. Yes, people still do that pretty effectively. And that's something nobody needs or wants. But it still happens. But that's because of the sales training and knowing how to run that sales team effectively.
That was great, Charles.
Yes. Rob, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'd love to, because I think Charles hit on something that is extremely important that gets talked about, but I think it very rarely receives any type of training whatsoever, especially for salespeople, is listening. I mean, we get the product training, we give product training, we give training on how to handle objections, we give prospecting training. How many times in a sales team have you ever had a sales team receive specific training on how to listen to the customer? I think it's pretty rare. And it's probably the most important thing that a salesperson can do, because if you really want to get down to it, when it comes to running a sales team, I think if that sales team wants to really be good at influencing people, because that's all we have as a salesperson, right? We have the ability to influence. We have no authority over our customers. We have influence. We have to learn how to be better at influencing people. And the best way to influence somebody is to listen and get what they're saying. Charles was talking about, the conversation he had yesterday with somebody. I've been able to take ways where I can let somebody run for 15 minutes. They can talk for 15 minutes. If you can regurgitate that, and there's a way to do that, if you can listen well enough to regurgitate that 15 minutes back to them in 2 minutes and say, did I get you? And you don't miss anything with them, you've got them as far as the sale, because you listen to them. Nobody gets listened to anymore. Everybody's screaming, hollering, and yelling. Nobody's listening. And when somebody feels like they've really been gotten and you've shown them the respect of listening to them enough where you can repeat it back to them and show that you didn't miss any of their concerns, if you're the higher price, it's not going to matter. They're going to buy from you because they trust you. I'm finished speaking.
God, yeah, Rob, that's such a great point. And we've actually talked about this several times in this room. It's called active listening. And here's so a lot of folks that have been in here before have heard this, but active listening is where you're not thinking about what you're going to say next, and you are listening to whoever you're talking to. And here's one of the, just to be 100% transparent, lots of times for me, shouldn't say lots, some of the time, I will think about something as you're talking, right? You'll say something, it rings a bell, and I'm like, oh shit, I need to remember what he just said, but I also need to listen to the rest of what he's saying. And sometimes for me, because I don't know if it's because I'm ADD or what, but sometimes if the conversation goes on too long, I'll forget the point, and then I'll get stuck on forgetting the point while the person's still talking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess, there's I teach storytelling, and so I'll use storytelling as a listening framework as well. So if in Charles' example we had a customer talking for 15 minutes, I'll take notes when I'm talking to somebody. So, and you're absolutely right, Corey, and I do the same thing. I'll be listening, I'll take a note, I'll miss something. If you have a structure, a listening framework of, I have 4 elements to every story. There's the setting, complication, turning point, resolution. And many times clients are just talking about the setting and the complication. They don't know, hopefully my services or if Charles is selling Fords, that's where the resolution, or that's where the turning point and the resolution come in. But if they're talking about the setting and a complication they had, I can stop them at that point and say, hey, what I've heard you say so far is, here's what was going on, here's what was happening, things were good, but then you ran into this problem, this problem, this problem. Do I get you so far? And if they say, yeah, you got me so far, okay, keep going now. So I just wanted to make sure that we're on the same page and I don't miss anything. So you can do a check-in with them, and they can say, if you say, did I get you so far? Well, yeah, you did, Rob, but you missed this point. Well, I probably missed that point because I was writing down a note or something, right? And I said, oh, well, thank you for clarifying that. I'm sorry I missed that. So with all of that now, can we move forward? And I just wanted to check in with you and make sure I get you so far. Yep, you got me so far. Great. And then they go on with the story. So you can check in with them, and you can show them along the way that you are listening to what they are saying. Because you're right, active listening is a key component. And it's exhausting because it takes a lot of energy. And that's another reason a lot of people don't like to do it, is because it takes energy.
Hey, Corey, I have a hot tip for you on how to become a better listener. Single best thing I ever did was I took an improv class, and literally, like, you have to be such a good listener as you're going through that class, because you have to accept everything that's given to you and respond to it. And the whole, motto of improv is yes and. So you listen so that you can respond appropriately to what was said. So highly recommend, go get yourself enrolled in an improv class, even if it's online. It'll help you like you cannot believe.
Yes, and
Well played.
I had to do it. I had to do it. That's a great idea. I don't even know where the hell to sign up. I don't know where I would sign up for something like that.
DC Improv has online classes all the time, and it's like they're like 90-minute classes, and they run like 3-4 weeks at a time.
Is that in DC?
Yeah, but it's online. You're doing it via Zoom. I'll do it with you.
All right. Challenge accepted.
There you go. Are you going to get one of these? Come on.
I'll probably
Corey.
get the first one.
Come on. No, I think that's good for also for a similar reason why like phone sales or door to door is good, is that you have this, people might have a little mental block about embarrassing themselves or putting themselves in a difficult situation or an awkward situation. And the more of those difficult situations that you can go into and realize like, it's not that big of a deal. Like even when I did make an ass out of myself, like what possibly happened, it opens up a lot of opportunities. Not necessarily that you're going to be on Saturday Night Live or something, but you're going to have to think on your feet, or you should be thinking on your feet in your sales career, your business career. And I just see this same pattern over and over again where it's like, I don't want to do a thing. And then if I really think about it, I'm like, there's not really a reason that I shouldn't do the thing. I just don't want to do it because it's uncomfortable, but there's not actually like a bad thing that's going to happen. Right. You say something to a person and they're just like, they weren't going to buy from you. They didn't like you in the first place. Like, the transaction is over. If you act professional and you're nice and courteous and trying to provide value, sometimes they come back around. But if you say nothing, you get nothing. And
yep.
I don't know.
I would also say too that more than helping me with feeling more comfortable with sales, which is why I originally joined the improv class, where it really made a difference for me, it has changed the way that I respond and ask questions and listen during our podcast. So I feel like I'm better at podcasting as a result of that improv class, because I used to stop listening as soon as somebody would say something that I was like, "Ooh, I want to ask a question about that." And so I wouldn't listen, and they might talk for another, 2-3 minutes. And now I'm like taking notes, and I can go back and say like, "Okay, you've said a lot of things in there that I want to touch on them." I got my skills in that area improved dramatically, and I was not expecting that. So I know Trent Bray is taking an improv class now. He signed up for one, and with the hopes of it helping him with his podcasting and with his business. So I highly recommend it. If you haven't done it, do it.
Arte Improv.
Yeah. I really wouldn't have thought about, honestly, Julia, I've never taken an improv class, so I guess that would be the reason I didn't really think about that. I don't even know how the hell an improv class works, other than what you just explained. So we got Justin, Alex, Lisa, and Ben. Why don't you guys come on up and join the conversation around sales teams and how to build a sales team? I feel like Justin probably has some experience with this. And I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I'm sure you've either worked. There we go. What's up, Alex?
Dude, this is my first time on Clubhouse in 2.5 weeks.
Woo!
I know. It was a much needed break, but I'm happy to hop back in with 7-figure sales.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, bro.
I don't have experience in growing a sales team. In all the organizations I've been in, I have been the sales team. So this is something I'm learning and developing as I go. And thank God for Arate for teaching leadership along the way for that too.
Agreed, for sure. Corey, I'm going to jump to my 8 o'clock call, but I'll catch you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 7-figure sales.
That's it. Thank you, brother. Hey, Ben, what kind of experience do you